we'll get started now. So first and foremost, thank you everyone for joining us. This is our first PRSSA SoCal event of the semester. So yeah, I just want to give a little special thanks to everyone involved in just making this thing happen. Again, a lot of hard work, and yeah, so thank you for everyone on the SoCal Coalition board. So I will be moderating the event. My name is Patrick. I'm the Vice President of Long Beach State. And again, I'll just be moderating the event. So today, our very first one of the semester, we will be having the professional sports panel. And with us today, we have Andrew from the NFL, we have Emily from the Sacramento Kings, and we have Lizzy, formerly of the Los Angeles Dodgers, but just barely. I know you, Lizzy, I'll have you go more into that, but yeah, just left for family. But yeah, we're excited to have all you guys here. So thank you guys again for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
All right, perfect. So my first question, I'm going to go to Andrew. So Andrew, just talk about a little bit of your college experience and your transition into the workforce, and yeah, just kind of where everything began.
Definitely. So I went to UCLA. I graduated in 2010. And to be quite honest, when I first got to UCLA, I had no idea what PR was. I didn't know that the industry even existed. My whole thing when I went to UCLA was I thought I wanted to be a sports writer. Sports was always a passion of mine, and writing was always a passion of mine. So I thought I could, combine the two of them. And so my main passion and focus was becoming a sports writer. And so the ways that I went about doing that is, I joined the student newspaper, was an editor and covered teams. And so my first introduction into PR was through working with sports information directors. My major was history. So didn't really have anything to do with a career. My career focus was the newspaper, and just over time, when I was working with the newspaper and seeing what SIDs did and the work that they did, I was just really drawn to the industry. That's what I felt really meshed well with my personality. I felt like I could use my experience that I had gained from a media side and transition well to a job in PR. And so that was my first introduction for it. And was fortunate to do an internship in media relations right after I graduated college. And after that, started working at the NFL, and I've been here ever since.
Awesome, perfect. All right, Emily, so I'll ask you the same question. Pretty much just go over your beginnings.
All right. Well, my name is Emily. I'm from Sacramento, California, and I went to Gonzaga University. Go Zags! When I went to Gonzaga, I had every intention of majoring in criminal justice and becoming a lawyer. After about a semester of criminal justice classes, I realized that while I'm interested and passionate about criminal justice and criminal justice reform, it's not exactly what I wanted to do in the grand scheme of things. And that I realized if you want to become a lawyer, you could major in anything you want to. So with that in mind, and with the thought of student loan debt ultimately crushing me down the road, I decided to take a deep dive into what do I want to do, what field do I see myself in. Took a communications class, and in the very first day that they announced or introduced public relations as a field in communications, I kid you not, my professor said that public relations is like being a lawyer in the sense that you're working behind the scenes, you're being an advocate for an organization or a person or a business, and really helping them communicate their messages to the public. And I was like, whoa, that's pretty much everything I want to do. And then I found out it intersected with sports. And from there, I knew nothing else mattered. That is what I wanted to do. Immediately reached out to a high school teacher who was starting a business and said, hey, I don't know really what I would do in terms of public relations for you, but I thinking of switching my major. This is what I want to do. And from there, the rest is history. Had an opportunity to intern with our athletic department. And from there, my senior year, sort of dropped out of all of my academic courses that would have allowed me to graduate with a public relations degree, and instead chose to make my own classes. And so I graduated with a major in public relations, a minor in communications, and a specialty in sports created by me. And my first job out of college was as a server for a local restaurant here. And I applied to a ton of sports teams for positions that I knew I didn't even qualify for, but I just wanted to get my name out there. And I interviewed with the Kings for 2 different positions before the public relations internship opened up. Applied for that, got it, and then have been with the Kings now for almost 4.5 years and have loved every single moment of it.
Awesome. All righty, Lizzy. So same question to you.
Yeah, can you repeat the question? Because I was like so amazed by both their answers.
Yeah, no, so pretty much just your college experience and then, your transition into the workforce and pretty much how you got to the Dodgers.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I'm originally from the Bay Area, which is kind of near Sacramento. So I'm a Golden State Warriors fan, but I think the Kings are still great. But that's like you guys in SoCal reference, that's more where I'm from, closer to San Francisco. But then I went to Biola University, which is a small private Christian school in SoCal, about 20 minutes from Disneyland, to give you guys another reference. And I loved Biola, every minute of it. I came in as a PR major, but very similar to Andrew, actually, and Emily, I wasn't fully sure what PR was. So it's still kind of up and coming, but I think it's so incredible. And I mean, you guys are actually using I can tell, a lot of the PR stuff that we learned in school that you guys are probably learning in school. So that's great. I entered a different field in sports, but I still feel like everything I learned from PR was totally applicable, all the skill sets, everything. So yeah, backing up to, let's see, college was a combination of I ran track and cross country for a few seasons, and Biola just went NCAA D2 a couple years ago. So I was a part of that transition, which was a really big move for us. And then I also was really involved in student leadership. So I was like an orientation leader, an academic advisor, an RA, all that kind of stuff. But I also loved the PR clubs and things we had on campus. So my freshman and sophomore year, I was involved in PRSSA and we call it 6th Street PR, which was like our on-campus student-run Biola PR firm, if you will. And you had to like go through an application process to be a part of it. So they did everything really official. And it just gave us, like, as undergraduates, a really good, tangible experience of working with local clients and doing PR for them, but without the pressure of like getting fired for if you made a mistake or something. It was just a really great experience for students to partner up with people close to Biola and then practice what we were learning in the classroom. So I did that my freshman, sophomore year. And then I had 3 internships before I went to the Dodgers. So the summer after my sophomore year, I worked with a family friend of ours who's a retired Olympic cyclist. And he's also from the Bay Area. His name's Freddie Rodriguez. Super awesome. He raced with Lance Armstrong on the US team. And he just had a really big heart for giving back to kids in our area by teaching them like safety rules about riding on the road and things like that. But he really needed some help with like his social media game and his website. So I got to kind of come in and just tinker around with those things and play with what I was learning in the classroom. And then my second internship was actually at my high school, and I was really passionate about helping them with some events they were wanting to plan for the upcoming school year. And then also community relations, which is kind of like a little bit of a branch of PR, but it's really connecting with your local communities and the school in this example. So did worked on a couple of major events for them, which was really fun, and tried to partner with their athletics program a little bit. And then my third internship was my senior year at Biola, but I have to backtrack because that summer before senior year, I actually applied to be with the Dodgers and didn't get it, which was totally okay. They went with a great candidate at the time, and I just still had so much more I needed to learn. But I did ask the Dodgers, I said, well, what is it that I could have on my resume or bring to the table that you're not seeing that you'd like? And they said, well, we really want to see like a sports specific internship or some sort of job in sports. And I thought to myself, okay, how am I supposed to get a job, some sort of job in sports while I'm still in school? So I marched up to our athletics department and I said, look, I would really like an internship, just anything I can put on my resume to show that I'm working with you guys in order to kind of boost my eligibility for working in professional sports, and specifically the Dodgers. So they were more than happy to help me out as I helped them. And I guess that's like a little piece of advice too, which ties into another question, but if you're ever like wondering how to get somewhere, don't ever be afraid to ask, and don't ever be afraid to ask other people, hey, can I help with something? Because especially if you're willing to work for no pay as an intern type of position, they're more than willing to give you something to do so that you learn an experience or learn a skill. And that's exactly what my athletics department did. So I worked under our sports information directors, similar to Andrew, I think. And I helped market for the cross country team in the fall. I gave like post game interviews to our basketball teams in the winter and did a lot of live tweeting of the games. And then for the baseball season, I did a lot of live tweeting as well. Like, oh, Biola Eagles just home run against whatever team we were playing, that sort of thing. So that was enough, thankfully, to help qualify me for getting the internship with the Dodgers right after I graduated. And this was in 2019. And the month after I graduated, they offered me the job and I got to intern in baseball operations. And then eventually that turned into a full-time job that was a part of the World Series, like a really, really, really small part of the championship. So I think I covered everything, but you can back me up if I missed something.
No, that was excellent. And the beauty of having this recorded is we can watch that again, play all of this. So for all of us coming in, as PR students, I mean, everything that you guys are telling us you guys are the professionals. We want to get to your point one day, whether it be sports or any other field. So thank you guys so much for that advice. So with that said, I'll start with Andrew on this one. So just kind of your current role and just kind of a little different online, but just kind of how a day-to-day looks like for you.
Yeah. I like to say that, while there are certain things I can expect to do every day, each day can be a little bit different. But if I boil it down to it, I facilitate weekly radio, TV, print requests for all NFL Network talent. So, whether that be our analysts, our hosts, our reporters, I serve as the primary liaison for those guys. To like not only the media, but to fans, to internal departments throughout the NFL, just kind of, working with them and managing their overall message and how they're perceived by everyone. Further than that, I can, develop and executing all communication strategies as it relates to NFL Network. So, pretty much anything related to NFL Network that you see or hear, I'm in charge of pushing that out and making that known. Kind of, there's some behind the scenes stuff that I've, kind of added to my repertoire, if you will. Whether that be working with some business development teams with the NFL on how the NFL's broadcast and marketing deals come together, who broadcast departments, how the networks, not only the network, but the games itself are distributed across platforms. And then I'm just, promoting anything and everything as relates to the NFL that can be serving on location at such events as Super Bowl, scouting combine, draft. Kind of, it's a position that allows you to wear a lot of different hats and do a lot of different things. And so certainly, again, feel fortunate that there are some days where I know for sure what I'm doing, but other days where it's, just dependent upon the news or what comes up.
Yeah, and I know with the coverage of the NFL the way it is, I mean, that's a 365 job. Yeah. So
Yeah, no, we kind of have, there's a saying where there's not really an off season in the NFL. It's just more of a non-playing season. So we just finished up the playing season with Super Bowl last week, and now it's on to draft, free agency, the stuff that goes on when you aren't actually playing. So certainly is a year-round job.
for sure. All right. Well, Emily, I know you're in season right now. Andrew just finished his, and Lizzy, the champions of the baseball world. So, Emily, we'll go with you. How's your day to day generally look like?
So obviously with the pandemic, it's a little different. And this last season, my boss was on maternity leave. And one thing, I mean, I don't know if it's the same with NFL and baseball, but with the NBA, the departments are very small. And for the Kings, it's literally me, my director, and then our senior vice president of communications. And if we're lucky, obviously, we would have an intern underneath. But this past season, I had the opportunity and challenge to run the department by myself with my part-time intern. So this season, my day-to-day, it's a lot of working from home. I get the occasional opportunity to work a game. And like last night, I was there and helping our media folks make sure that they had all the stats working, making sure that they, you know, have their seats and have the angles for cameras and everything like that. But, definitely when there's no pandemic, you're getting there early for morning hits with, different business opportunities, whether it's promoting for All Stars or promoting Star Wars night. And then you're staying late to escort T-Pain around because he's performing for halftime and all of the local media want to talk to him, or um, coordinating with media different opportunities and hits on the arena. Like last year we opened up Zippin, which is a completely cashless store. You literally walk through a turnstile, grab the food you want, walk out, and it charges your card without you even having to swipe. So just different opportunities in the media to really tell the story of the Sacramento Kings. So as public relations coordinator, I manage all of the business operation stories. I manage the story of Golden One Center, which is near and dear to my heart because my very first day was the concert that opened up Golden One Center. And I also oversee DOCO, which is the retail and lifestyle space around Golden One Center. And I also help out with Stockton Kings and Kingsguard Gaming, which is the esports team. So it kind of like Andrew said, you get an opportunity to really have your hands in everything. People typically come to me with questions about the business itself because I have, I'm the window into everything that goes on with the Kings.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I know the struggle with the Golden One Center, how it was an effort, fan effort. I know how that is. As I mentioned earlier, Sonics fan, we're kind of what could have happened, but with the Kings, what did happen? And obviously, the Golden One Center has revamped that entire area. So awesome that
Absolutely.
you can be part of it. Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, like I kind of got to tell you, I was at school, I was in Spokane, Washington. A lot of my friends are from the Seattle area. So they kept telling me constantly, oh, we're going to take your team. We're going to take your team. And, me being from Sacramento, I'm like, trust me, the fans are like no other. We're going to keep our team. Just mark my words. And literally then being able to help open that building, like I think I cried like 3 different times because I knew how much of a turning point that was for Sacramento. Not only do we get to keep our team, we literally have the state of the art arena, most technologically advanced arena in the world. And like that was such a unique perspective. And so I kind of feel like Golden One Center is my baby. Like that's my pride and joy, really.
Awesome, awesome. And then it's from one arena to one of the most famous baseball stadiums, Dodger Stadium. Lizzy, I'll ask you. So, with your time with the Dodgers, what did a day-to-day look like for you?
Mhm. Yeah, so again, amazed by all the things you guys do. Students, you guys really want to listen to them, because if you want to get into comm and PR specifically, like those two, like you guys are crushing the game. I was just the little baseball operations assistant. So really oftentimes um I was just willing and ready to do things that maybe nobody else wanted to do, which I also think is like a good piece of advice when you're starting out in the workforce. Just come in with a servant's heart and ready to help in any way. And you never know what doors will open, because people will appreciate your attitude and respect your hard work. And I'm really glad somebody told me that, because it helped me just like selflessly and humbly go in every day. Like, what can I do? How can I serve? If it's sending out mail, or if it's going to grab something, or running a check down to the clubhouse because some player forgot to, get his direct deposit set up and we need to pay him, like all kinds of crazy things. So I was really their runaround girl. And I think starting out, my main focus was on administrative tasks. And so I guess that's a distinction I should make with baseball operations, maybe for those who don't know. Our main job is to handle the players and the coaching staff. Like, we do everything with them exclusively. So my boss is the senior director of baseball administration. And to put it really simply, without giving too many details, like, she's the one signing all the major league paperwork, and then there's minor league paperwork, and I'm taking care of it afterwards. So we were a few sets of eyes that got to see a lot of confidential information on a day-to-day basis, from contracts to trade transactions to just a lot of player paperwork that's kind of almost like HR related, really confidential, and things that we, didn't share with others, because sometimes we would find out before the media would find out, and then before the world would find out who we were trading or who we're acquiring, and that whole thing. So I was trusted with a lot, but I really wasn't doing glamorous tasks, if you will. But sometimes like things would come up and I'd be told like, hey, can you drive to so-and-so's apartment? Because this player like forgot to turn in his keys. So I'd be like dropping things off at his house, and it just a lot of random tasks, but really fun. Some days they would need help like with what did they call it? Fan Fest is this huge, big promotional event where they had it before the beginning of the season starts, where all fans can come on down to Dodger Stadium and they get to see like certain players escorted around doing interviews or signing autographs and that sort of thing. So I would be trusted to like walk some of those guys around and just kind of stay out of their way, but make sure that they're following their schedule. And that was really, like in baseball operations, a lot of what the staff was trusted to do was similar to the media, the PR and communication guys like you two. We're not there to be fans. We're there to basically treat them as coworkers and make sure they can get from point A to point B as efficiently as possible. And I wasn't shuffling around T-Pain, but like sometimes, shuffle around a minor league player or occasionally a major league player. Like, I really don't have many relationships with them, but all of them were super great and super fun to work with and very respectful and kind. If I was there longer, who knows? But that's kind of the fun of being with the Dodgers, is like, you never know who you were going to meet each day. I'm really thankful I got to meet Tommy Lasorda before he passed just recently. And I actually, one of my first days, so embarrassing, I actually almost physically ran into him. He was so upset, but then the next day he was totally fine. So there's just a lot of, like, with Dodger Stadium, a lot of history that's associated with the team, with the stadium itself, with everybody who works there. Like, there's such a longevity and pride in everyone who wants to be a part of it. And so just being kind of like a fly on the wall and seeing how they do things and just helping in any way I can was really what I got to do. But I wasn't doing, I think, the big stuff that you two are a part of. And so it's really awesome to hear like your guys' experience in a different department. And I guess I should also add that Dodgers baseball ops is probably one of the biggest departments in any pro team. We have probably I'd say a little under 300 people just in baseball ops, because baseball ops is kind of, if you think of it as a tree, there's all these different branches. So we have like a medical department, a player development department, a performance department, a research and development department, and the list goes on. Oh, scouting, that's a huge department. So I got to kind of touch base with like different people from each of those branches and help them in different ways I could. Trying to think of like another tangible example. Oh, one day we hosted Team USA, not Team USA, USA baseball for high schoolers, I think. And so it was all these all-star guys at the top of their game coming out of high school. And then we had them at Dodger Stadium. So I worked with the scouts to make sure they were like checked into the event and got to see the guys perform. And it was just an event that we hosted to kind of promote the up and coming youth of America, America's great baseball players. But there was a lot I did with international scouting too. So it was kind of a variety of topics, but I really don't know how to narrow it down other than like very similar to what Andrew said. You kind of touch a little bit of everything in baseball ops, and it's a lot of fun. But I mean, with COVID, it was a little bit sad to just be working remotely and, you know, doing things still behind the scenes and even watching the World Series games. Some of them here, I did get to go to Texas for 2 of them, which was awesome, but definitely a different experience, but still one I'll never forget.
Yeah, no, I mean, love hearing from you guys. I mean, man, yeah, guys, we got to be taking notes because
Ah,
these are the people. No, it's awesome to hear about it though. So with that said, Andrew, your favorite project, something you worked on. Now I do have to note, I did see that you did some stuff for A Football Life. Personally, San Diego Chargers fan, LaDainian Tomlinson, by far my favorite one. Just have to point that out there. But what is one of your favorite things that you have worked on? Something you're proud of? And yeah.
Yeah, no, LT's was a very good one, and LT's great. I don't know. I mean, I think, something that happens every year, just being able to work at Super Bowls or drafts, or what I think is my favorite event of the year, which is the Combine, which unfortunately isn't happening this year. It's going to happen in a different variety. But yeah, I mean, again, if I were to have to pick one, it'd be, what I enjoy about the draft so much is because not only do we look at it from like a network perspective. So for me personally, whether it was Mike Mayock, our number 1 draft analyst before he went to the Raiders, whether it's now Daniel Jeremiah, but whether it's Kurt Warner, Mooch, guys that used to be GMs like Scott Pioli, guys who used to be head coaches, just it kind of all comes together in a way, and looking at these players and looking at these teams with so much hope is great. But being there on site, ever since Radio City was great in terms of a venue for the draft, but being able to go to different cities, whether it be Chicago, Philly, Nashville, unfortunately we weren't able to do Vegas last year, but Cleveland this upcoming year, just seeing how different venues react to such an exciting event is something that's so special. And one thing that I always enjoy doing every draft is working with the players that are on site there at wherever the draft may be. Um, for example, usually there's probably about 28 to 30 players that are in the green room there ready to get called. And so, what happens is right when they get drafted, they come out, they take the picture with Goodell. Right after that, there's a member of our team who shepherds them through about an hour and a half to 2 hours afterwards of doing media, whether that is, connecting with whoever, the PR representative is for the team that just drafted them. Usually if it's a higher draft pick, they'll have a certain member of their staff there to help with the player. But sometimes, you're running multiple tours and, you do a top pick and then you do someone at the bottom and they won't have anyone there. But connecting with them in terms of how we get them on the phone with their local media, doing hits with ESPN, NFL Network, Sirius XM radio, signing 1,000 of their rookie cards, working with EA. So doing all of that stuff is fun. And what's really gratifying is you're with someone and walking them through something when literally their life has just changed. Like just in the span of seconds, their life has changed. And like if you're able to like kind of see what that's like, you introduce, not introduce, but you get them to their family and to see, them taking pictures with whatever team that they just got drafted by, with all the memorabilia, and just kind of seeing that emotion. Those always are the highlights for me.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, it's kind of interesting how we just get, like you said, we get on TV, we get to see the handshake with Goodell, we see them
Mhm.
leave. So much more that goes behind it that we don't even get to see.
Yeah, I sometimes feel bad for him because it's just like, you just got drafted and you want to, you get a little bit of time with your family, but then, here's me who you've never met before, who is like, yeah, you got to do an hour and a half of some stuff. But everyone I've had is, you know, has been gracious with their time. And so, um, yeah, no, it's a special moment for sure.
No, that's awesome. I mean, it's kind of similar. I have a friend, he's kind of like in Kyrie Irving's inner circle. And one of the things he mentioned, yeah, like when he got drafted, oh no, it wasn't over right there. It was go to like,
Hmm.
so like you're saying, exact same thing in the NBA. So when he told me that, I'm like, man, that's just one of those things.
Yeah,
Once you're a professional, you're a professional. So
yeah, for
so yeah,
sure.
Emily, I'll ask you as well. So of everything that you worked so far, I know you mentioned the Golden One Center, but has there anything in particular that has stood out to you as one of your favorite things?
Yeah, so I was trying to think about this question and trying to narrow it down to one, and I couldn't do that. One of my favorite reoccurring yearly projects that I love being a part of is I'm sure Lizzie and Andrew, you can very familiar with this one, media day, where you kind of, I call it the back to school for all of the players. They have to get their little headshots, they have to answer their questions about themselves and everything, and they hate it, but I always love it because it always helps me like get to know them a little bit better. Like I work with them all the time, and most of the time I see them, you know they're running from off court into a community event, or they're taking one of their off days to go and volunteer with the team and everything. So kind of putting a little bit more of a human aspect to them. I love that day. But then my other two favorite projects that I've been a part of, one, I hated it in the moment, but now looking back, I thought it was the coolest thing ever. We got to put a bid in for Sacramento to host the NBA All Stars. Fortunately, we didn't get it, but the process of going through, I was tasked with having to write all of the, a draft of all of the letters of support from different influential people, from Congress people to Sacramento mayors to former Sacramento Kings players, about why they feel Sacramento would be the perfect place to host and everything. And it was really challenging. It really consumed my time, but it was such a pivotal moment again in the Sacramento story. Having this world class venue that is capable of hosting an all stars, and really trying to put Sacramento back on the map and get the recognition it deserves. That was a really unique thing. But then my all-time favorite that you can't beat it. I read in the newspaper back when I was compiling clips and everything for the team. There was a local man who was hit in a hit and run on the freeway, lost both of his legs. And I brought the story to our community team and said, hey, what can we do? And we reached out to the family. We kept in touch with him as he was um, kind of going through his recovery. My uncle, who passed away several years ago, he had his leg amputated due to diabetes, And so I was able to put the family in contact with the people that helped him get his prosthetic leg. And he kind of acted as a mentor because he's based in the Bay Area and the family just really couldn't do the transport back and forth. But he kind of served as a mentor of how to transition from legs to now no legs and everything. And then once he was well enough, we surprised him with some of our community members, our mascot, Slamson, and we were hoping to get Vince Carter, but unfortunately that day he wasn't feeling well. So Zach Randolph came with us to the house and we surprised him. He was invited to a Kings game with some family. And then also during the summer, we invited him back to run practice with the guys. And so he got to pass the ball around and everything. And it was such a heartwarming story and something we never truly got pressed for because it wasn't about that. It was about simply doing good in the community. And so it's little stories like that that really just, make the job amazing beyond what it already is.
Yeah, sports are powerful and do matter. So yeah, perfect example of that right there. So Lizzy, we will go to you. At your time with the Dodgers, was there anything in particular that stood out as one of your favorite things or, something along those lines?
Yeah, wow, hard to follow up both of you, just making such an impact. That's so awesome. I'm like fangirling over your guys' stories because I love, that's one department, side note, that I think you guys should check out if PR doesn't work out, is like the community. It's either called community relations with teams, or it's called, like the Dodgers, we have the foundation, which is basically our everything that we give back to the community. I love those people. I loved what they did. So anyway, just a plug for that. But one project actually that was, it kind of came out because of COVID, and it was something that they were just not really paying a lot of attention to, and it's still coming to fruition, but I got to help work with, is our player development team did not have like a website. And we really needed them to, because the players, I mean, they're so sick and tired of doing Zoom, like all of us, but they really needed one space where they could find everything they need on a day-to-day basis. So whether it's, forms they had to fill out, or information about their upcoming schedule, or whatever, all those kind of admin logistics things, they wanted a place for that. But then they also wanted a space in place for, how do I summarize? Well, basically the people who I got to work with were our like athlete psychologists, if you will. They're the ones who are helping our guys not only become better players at during performing, like day to day in during practice and games, but they're the ones who just want to help shape better men. And so we really wanted to give them like a well-rounded experience on the site by providing them with not only just maybe a workout video or something they needed to watch, but like articles to read on just developing themselves outside of baseball, and things to watch and things to listen to. So we really tried to cover, which my small part in that was helping them make the site, but really these guys were the ones equipping the site with all the tools these guys need in their belt to succeed, not only on the field, but off the field. And so that was super fun for me, because I probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to work with these guys and connect with them. And now we're like such good buds. I still talk to them all the time. And I'm so excited to see like what the site will do, just in helping kind of connect all of our minor league players over the country, because we have quite a few teams. I think we have 8 minor league teams, with the loss of one because MLB cut a lot of minor league teams, but we're in like Utah, Oklahoma, California, Arizona, in the Dominican Republic, which is obviously outside of the US. So we did a lot of cool things by partnering English and Spanish on the site, and just so many creative ways that I don't think the Dodgers had been using to connect to the players, and hopefully will be like a big resource for them one day. We started the project last summer, and I think the goal is for them to launch it by the beginning of the season. So for those of you who don't know baseball schedule, spring training, which is like preseason, is about to start in the next week or two. And then regular season would take place in like April or May, I think or no, March is the opening. I can't remember when the Dodgers opening day was, March or April. But yeah, that was a super fun project. But I thought of another scenario after Emily was talking, which was also really fun. And it was actually also kind of what Andrew was talking about, where you get to see the guys coming up to the bigs and just kind of being like wowed by the light, but then you also get to see them interact with their family and everything. So what we do every year is we give out minor league awards to our top pitcher and then just our top player. And so the top player we chose in 2020, we didn't do it last year. So sorry, 2019. Our top player was Gavin Lux, who's one of our major league players now. And then our top pitcher is Josiah Gray. And we're so excited for him, up and coming pitcher. But it was really cool to like walk Josiah, because Gavin was already warming up for a game that day. And we basically did this award ceremony, like a pregame ceremony. And so I had these like Tiffany & Co. bags I was carrying with their big trophies, which were so cool to see. And then I got to like hand that off to one of my bosses, and she handed it to the players. And just to kind of see them like wowed by the major league field was really cool, and get to see them almost nervous and scared was just kind of like exciting for someone else up and coming in the professional world. Because yeah, once you hit the ground running, like Andrew said, like they have a job to do. It's not all just fun and pictures and signing autographs. Like they have a lot of a grind to work towards. And so that was just a really precious moment that was very just down to earth. And I don't know, just a great experience to get to see the guys as not just them in their uniforms, but as just guys being humbled and amazed and encouraged by their success. So
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, hearing, you know, these moments that help the players, that help the fans. I mean, just that's awesome. Like hearing about all of your favorite projects. I mean, that's so cool. So, this is a great question that I wanted to make sure that was included. So this next one, I can kind of combine the two, is obviously we're online. The pandemic has definitely hit everyone, students, sports, just everyone in general. And so well, of course, Andrew, we'll go to you first. So how has the pandemic kind of affected the NFL? And even, throwing in, there are some certain, socially there are divides in the country as well. And that, that's kind of coincided with the pandemic. So how has the NFL kind of dealt with that?
Yeah, I mean, the first part of your question, just for kind of sake of knowledge, I have not been in the office since March 11th of last year. And so saying all of that, it's been fortunate that I've been able to, continue to do the job from home. I've said that 98, probably 95 to 98% of my job I can do from home, which is great. That other 2% is just the interactions that you get with, people that are in the office, whether that be in your own department, which, as Emily noted, for her department is very small. Mine is, in terms of full-time people now in our office, is 2. But our overall department's, over 30. But just, interacting with those people, interacting with the talent, developing relationships, that's been different. And you find different ways to do that, whether that be on the phone, whether that be on Zoom. That certainly kind of has changed the way that you communicate a lot. Finding different ways to either facilitate interview requests that the media provide you, different ways of teaming up and working on different projects with people. And to your later point, this certainly has been, and a momentous big change in terms of a season. I think the NFL would be quite frank in saying that, back in 2016, they didn't handle it very well. They didn't handle what came of Kaepernick very well. They didn't handle, how they reacted to a lot of that. And I think through initiations such as Inspire Change, um, through just, I think the biggest thing is just listening and talking, listening to what, players have to say, listening to what coaches have to say, has been a big part of it. From a network perspective, I know that we've, put forth a great effort in terms of trying to tell stories, trying to provide people with platforms, to tell inspiring stories, that are needed to be told, whether that be on various shows that we do, such as NFL Total Access, whether that be through a podcast that I would highly recommend called Huddle and Flow with two of our reporters, Steve Weiss and Chip Trotter. It's been a trying time, and it's certainly, there are conversations that are tough to have, but I think what we've tried to figure out is they've been needed to have for a long time now. And so, it's not perfect, and certainly the work is not done, but I think this has certainly opened the eyes of a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate the honesty in that response. And yeah, been a year. Yeah, I think for us too. I think we haven't been on campus since like March 11th, something like that. I mean, yeah, it's kind of throwing us off too. But yeah, so appreciate that. And Emily, I'll ask you the same thing. So first part of the question, just how the pandemic has affected your work. And then second part of that is just the social divide in our country, how the Kings have responded to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like Andrew, I actually have not been back to my office, like to actually sit at my desk since March 11th. The infamous video of the little girl crying because the Kings and Pelicans game was canceled. Literally, I don't know what it is about games, but I always pick the right ones to just not have to work. I was on my way home, and all of a sudden, I mean, it just felt like an impending, like, this is going to be canceled. This is going to be canceled. So I live about 45 minutes away from the arena. So I drove home as fast as humanly possible. I had my laptop out, I had my phone out, and I was just waiting for the call because, again, my boss was on maternity leave. So I was waiting for the call from the SVP to let me know we need to start writing a statement. And in the meantime, the Stockton Kings are in the middle of their game, and I have my PR person on the ground there. Her name's Sabrina. She is literally calling me, going, "So, do we cancel our game mid-game? Like, what do I do? What do I tell reporters?" And so, having to troubleshoot all that, and then the next day dealing with the cancellations and postponements of the arena events and everything, it literally felt like that next day just was never going to end. And eventually, you know, things have settled. It's freeing working from home. It's also really sad. I miss the office interactions. And, and in the same sense, it's really nice to, like, if you're working on a press release, being fully immersed in the press release and not having five different people from their departments coming up and saying, "Hey, I need this. Hey, I need this." They have to email me so I can kind of pick and choose what the order of importance is. But it's definitely, it, as much as it's been a challenge for the Kings, I think that the Kings have always been about giving to the community. And so when the pandemic hit, it was not a matter of what do we do, it's a matter of how fast can we activate and find out in which way the community needs us most. And I think that the Kings have always been, I mean, since 2015, when Vivek Ranadive bought the team, the Kings have become bigger than basketball. And what that means is, like, it's not just dribbling a ball and shooting a basket. It's the community, it's the connections, it's all about what Sacramento gives back to the team and how we can amplify that. And so, with the social unrest and everything, we've already had a platform, and we we're working to shine the light on social injustice and social unrest and racial inequality. And, I think that, kind of to what Andrew said, you know, the players are people too. Like me, I'm so much more than my job. There's a whole nother aspect to me. And so, when players are passionate about different things, um, giving them that opportunity to speak, and, if providing that support not only for the team members but for our staff members, because what everyone is feeling in the community around the world, during all of that unrest, like, we're all feeling it. We're all feeling isolated, you know really trying to recreate that office community, but through virtual, and a lot of my coworkers were not afraid to, hey, we're going to start a phone call. We're going to do an hour call. Anyone who wants to join, just listen to others and know that you're not alone. Like, that was really powerful. And I know you have another question that you sent me about the Kings on social justice efforts and everything. So I think I'll just kind of like go into that a little bit. We've had many I don't want to say issues, but opportunities to expand on social justice. And back in 2018, 2017, an unarmed man named Stephon Clark was shot and killed in Sacramento, and the protesters blocked fans from entering our arena. And like I said earlier, I picked the perfect time to not have to work that day. The Zags were in the Sweet 16, so I convinced my boss to let me go and watch the March Madness game. And instead of watching that, I was on the phone with him, trying to help him write messages and everything to communicate with fans, pulling clips as the news went national that the fans were being blocked from the arena. And then, the next morning going into the office and facilitating a call with the mayor's office, with the Sacramento Police Department, and trying to kind of bridge that gap. The Kings are proud to be partners of the community, but they're also proud to be partners of the police officers, because they help us keep our arena safe. And so trying to navigate those relationships and make sure that while we're being the best partners we can for both sides, we're providing that shoulder to voice their opinions and really use that NBA platform. And so I think that we've done a tremendous job through our Team Up for Change effort, which we've partnered with many different NBA teams now. It used to just be the Milwaukee Bucks, but now it's expanded to the Timberwolves and the Dallas Wings, or Stars. Oh, there's so many teams. I'm so sorry. But we've also done the Rally the Vote, which was a coalition of like over 40 teams throughout different professional sports, whether it be the NFL or the MLB or the G League, to really amplify and tell people to use their voice to change what we can. And so, while the pandemic has obviously brought about a lot of other conversations, there are conversations that the Kings have already been having in Sacramento. And so we were really happy to be able to kind of share with other teams, like, hey, this is how we facilitated these conversations. And, we would be happy to help amplify your voices to do the same. So kind of a long answer, but that's kind of what we've been dealing with during the pandemic.
Right. No, again, much appreciated. Definitely getting your insight on that. So yeah, thank you. Thank you. Lizzy, I know you do have to leave soon, so this may be your last question, but I did want to, again, similar question. So in terms of the pandemic, how that affected your time with the Dodgers, as well as any, same thing with the social injustice in our country, and how the Dodgers went about that.
Yeah, so I can't speak from the same insight that I think Andrew and Emily have, just because that's like a totally separate department. But I can say on behalf of being a part of the staff there, like I think our marketing, communications, PR, that whole team who runs the social media too. I mean, I have a biased opinion, but looking at other teams, at least in MLB, I thought the Dodgers did a phenomenal job of at least keeping their message consistent throughout all of that and really trying to create and encourage unity rather than division. And I think there was just a lot of mutual respect between the players, between the staff, and just a lot of people trying to understand. And as Andrew said, just trying to listen to one another, because ultimately, at the end of the day, whether or not you kind of look like somebody beside you, they have a totally different story and background and upbringing and different values and opinions than you do. And I think just being a member of a team that was so, I guess, encouraging to just be kind and respect one another for whatever differences we may have was just really something I appreciated. And I think, yeah, I can't really say much more about it because I don't know what the planning process was in strategically coming up with the messages that were delivered to the public. But I can say that from what I recognize is they were timely, they were efficient, they were appropriate, and they were concise and understandable to the fans, to the staff, to the players. And it definitely created more opportunity for conversation surrounding a number of controversial topics. And whether or not they were uncomfortable, I think in your uncomfortability, that's when you see the most growth. So no matter maybe what side you might have been on certain topics, it really was like a time for all of us to challenge ourselves to rethink and reevaluate. Okay, is what I'm thinking just because of whatever I have been trained with, raised with, who I've been around? How can I diversify that? How can I keep growing myself professionally and personally? I just really appreciated all the conversations that the Dodgers sparked through that. And we definitely talked about it as a staff, let alone what was initiated to the public from like our marketing team, if I were to say that correctly. But yeah, I think that's all I have time for. But if you guys have any other questions from people in the audience that I didn't have time for, like Patrick has all my information, and I might not get back to you right away, but you're more than welcome to shoot me an email or connect on LinkedIn. This has been so awesome and so wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm sorry I have to cut it short, but it seems like you guys have like awesome candidates to keep listening to. So thanks again.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Lizzy. Thank you
Thank
for
you, Lizzy. It was nice hearing from you.
Thank you, Lizzy.
Nice to meet you all.
You too.
perfect. All righty. So down to the NFL and the Kings. No, but so yeah, just kind of piggyback on that one. So in terms of social media, obviously, I mean, the NFL and the Kings and the NBA as a whole, like prototypically, like you guys are amazing at it already. But kind of to go into you guys specifically, how do you utilize social media as a whole to be as successful as you are with that? So I'll start with you, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, so the NFL has its own social media department, and I don't know if this is just an indication of me being old, or where it's how the space has grown at the time. But when I first started, the number of people in the social media department for all of the NFL was 2 people. Now it's probably almost 100, and so certainly it's a large part of the business, and it's certainly a large part of what we do to connect with fans and to connect with players and coaches, and just give out the message, of the NFL and our content. So while, I have some insight into what the social media department does as a whole, seeing as I'm not in that department, I'll just speak on, us as a department in terms of the PR department. Ours that specifically focuses on the NFL Network and its owned media assets. We utilize our department Twitter a lot. We have over 103,000 followers. and we kind of use that as a way of getting out news and information as it relates to our analysts and our reporters, our talent, as well as our content. And we still send things like press releases, and press releases are great, that you can blast out to a lot of media. But trends change, and one of the trends that changes is how people consume news and how people consume that information that you send out. And we feel like Twitter and other social media platforms are the best way to do it. So it certainly has played a lot of, a large part in what the NFL does. And I think maybe even more so this year, given how unusual this year has been.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely know that that's the main way how I consume the NFL is Twitter, outside of watching the games themselves. So yes, alrighty, Emily. So same question to you. Just social media, how the Kings utilize it. Just which one is the preferred one, the best one, with just everything related to social media.
Yeah, so I see a lot of people saying that the King's Twitter is the GOAT Twitter. I 100% agree. And unfortunately, I am not a part of that team. I wish I could take credit for some of their genius, but sitting in the office, I sit amongst them, and their thought process and the way that they come up with things is so creative and just communal. They're very synergistic. They love to bounce ideas off of each other and challenge one another to, take an idea and further develop it. And so, the way that the Sacramento Kings use Twitter is totally for fan engagement. Like, yes, we do submit our news and our press releases through Twitter. And really, all of that is trying to do is to encourage people to visit the website for more information. But really, I mean, our Twitter is the most sarcastic, like, hilarious being itself, and it's kind of created another like entity for the Kings to kind of manage. And like, I love the fact that when the Kings are playing bad, we're not afraid to point it out. We know we haven't been to the playoffs in 15 plus years. We know that. And so the best way to point out that is to make fun of it, and or on the reverse, completely detract from it. Yeah, the Kings might be losing by 20, but do you guys need an update in what's going on in the football world? Let us tweet the many different scores that are going on that aren't just about the Kings and everything, and posting memes that relate to how fans are feeling and everything. And so, like, I think that businesses have tried to use social media to get out their brand and their news, but I think that there's such a way that we can do that that's hilarious and fun, and that's what makes people follow. Like, we always get the comments that when we finally post a picture of or a video of Rashawn Holmes and his weight training, people are like, where are the memes? Like, that's what people go for us, like that. It's fun, it's we get the hate, we get the love, and the best way to deal with both is just to laugh it all off. Everything that is said on social media is everything we've heard before, so you can't really hurt our feelings, so we might as well poke fun and have a great time while doing it. I love working with that team, and I wish I could take credit for all of the amazing work that they do, but that is not my job.
Yeah, and it's also funny too when the teams engage back and forth with each other. I mean, that's yes.
Yeah, I love, because there was a time, it was right after, oh gosh, it was like 2016, and we beat the Cavaliers, which at the time had LeBron, and we re-altered the Cavaliers logo to be a big giant L, and we got a little slap on the hand from the league and said, no, can't make fun of logos, can't do that. So instead, then we partnered with Atlanta Hawks, and we did a day of kindness. So we would, as we're playing each other, tweet about, oh, hey, that was a nice pass. Ooh, that three looked so great. Like, literally complimenting each other, almost making fun of the league for telling us we had to be nice. So, they're so clever and they're so hilarious. And it also builds brand awareness. So it's great.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I know someone mentioned in the comment NBA Twitter. Oh, that's it. That's its own beast. If you're a sports fan, highly,
It
highly
really is.
recommend checking it out.
Honestly, the Twitter is more interesting than the game half the time, just because, it could be an exciting game,
Yeah.
but I love reading like what the memes are saying about how we feel about it all. It's great.
Right, right. Awesome. Thank you guys. So we do want to kind of one of our last topics before we get into our Q&A is just general advice. I mean, one thing we like to ask all of our panelists are just what I wish I knew, things for, the current students now that maybe we can take in now that you guys are in this position, and, just advice in general. And yeah, just what you guys would give to us for advice. So I'll start with Andrew on that one.
Yeah. I mean, I think if I had to give, advice on a career in PR, I think number one thing would be communication. We're in the communications business, and so it's vital that you're able to communicate. And whether that be through written communications, through emails, texting, it could be verbal communications, through phone calls, speaking with people. Communication and how you deliver a message is key, especially since, this industry is in charge of delivering a message. And so, my point in that is not only double and triple checking what I'm sending, but also that I'm able to be reached. I think it's important for us to be available to people, and it doesn't just have to be with media or the talent. It could be different departments. Kind of serving as the go-to department to find answers, I think is important. Another thing I would say is, trying to be the most even keeled person in the room. There are times when things come up that are stressful, but I think it's always important for someone in PR to be the person that's, calm. You might not be calm on the inside, but like outwardly you're calm, you're steady, you're gonna go through it. And acting as a mediator. I would also say listening to people is a big thing. Making sure you're not the only one talking, making sure that you listen to people and the message that they're trying to send and trying to give, so that you can accurately, portray that. And then the final piece, it can kind of, it's kind of a little corny saying, but someone told me it one time, and I kind of just use it, not just as it relates to professional avenues, but even personal avenues too. And that's, it'll all be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end, which basically just means that there's going to be hard times. There's going to be stressful times. There's going to be times when the job presents you with situations that aren't rosy, that aren't easy to get through. But if you just work at it and you work hard, you'll know that you'll get through it. And that's just it. I mean, and finally, sorry, the thing about I wish I knew that there were avenues such as this when I was in college, because I think, the service that you guys provide and offer, it really is invaluable. Certainly is something that I wish I knew. So.
Appreciate that. Yes. Definitely great. Definitely a great quote, and something that I'm going to have to write down in my little notes. But all right, thank you, Andrew. So
Mhm.
Emily, same question to you, just general advice, what you wish you knew and just things of that nature for us.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with what I wish I knew first. Um, you have to remember this is a job. It doesn't always end in happiness. It's not always absolutely amazing, rubbing elbows with the players, doing all the fun work. There is a lot of grunt work. And honestly, I would say it's about 90% in the office, nose to the grind, writing press releases, blog posts, doing your media lists, and all that kind of stuff. And then 10% all of the other really fun stuff. And I wish I had known necessarily that, like, everyone at some point feels like, oh my gosh, this feels like a lot of work, and you feel kind of overwhelmed because the sports world runs very fast. Like you said, it's 365, 24/7, like it is always going. And I think that, obviously with the world of social media, there are always new things popping up. So, be on your toes, be ready to literally tackle anything. You can go into the day saying, oh, this is going to be an easy day. I only have a 30-minute meeting. Then I've got hours to just focus on projects. And those are normally the days that blow up into being things that you're like, oh, I never got that time to like sit at my desk and actually work on things, like it's not always butterflies and rainbows. Sometimes it sucks, but that's okay because it makes that 10% of the really amazing things that you do so much more worth it. And, the advice that I would give, going back to kind of what Lizzy said is, and something I truly believe is, when you're uncomfortable, you grow the most. You know, don't be afraid to put yourself in a situation where you're asking higher ups, "Hey, I want experience in this." Like I said, back when I was in school, and after I had found out that public relations really intersected with sports, I was uncomfortable and I dropped all of my required courses to graduate and petitioned the PR director of the department to allow me to create my own classes. And she said, if we don't approve this, you will not graduate. And I said, I don't care. Like, I know that this is where I'm going to grow most. And so, I think that in everything we do, anything that makes us uncomfortable, that's the stuff to lean into. That's the stuff that you need to give that your all, because that's where you're going to realize something about yourself you didn't already know. And like I said, this past season with my boss on maternity leave, I was uncomfortable all the time. I could honestly say that I'm not a person that cries. I have to say that. I know I've pointed out several times that I've cried, like when I helped open the Golden One Center, but I cried multiple times throughout the week because I just felt so overwhelmed with work. But I was growing as a professional because it allowed me to really work on my time management skills, to really, step into what it would be like to be that next level. And so, I was uncomfortable, but I grew, and that's the stuff you need to look for.
Awesome. Appreciate that advice. And yeah, again, a lot of these stuff, gonna be writing it down because now you guys, thank you for the honest, great advice to us. So I do want to close it out with Q&A. We do have some questions here, so I'll just shoot them to you guys. And yeah, so we have our first question from David from Long Beach. So he asks, how can I use my sports fandom and knowledge to my advantage in these PR jobs slash internships? So we'll go with start with Andrew on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think in order to make anything and be successful in anything, you need to have a passion for it. And so I think if you have a passion for sports, that will serve you well. I've always said that, if I'm hiring an intern or looking at intern candidates, certainly a passion for the work I'm looking for. It's nice to know, have someone that knows backgrounds of players and what the league is and the games. But I would say more than anything, what stands out the most, especially if again looking more of an intern level, is a desire just to do anything, a sponge to pick up anything. Certainly, us full time, when we're looking for interns, we understand and know that at the end of the day, it's a learning experience, and we want to provide the best learning experience that you can. And so while sports fandom is great and we love the passion, you know, I would say that, don't let it get in the way of, let's say, you don't know much about the NHL, but, you know, San Jose Sharks reach out and they have an internship, and you're kind of like, well, I don't really know that much. Do it. You know, you'll figure it out. as long as you can do the work, it can translate to anything.
Awesome. Emily, I'll ask you the same question. So, using your fandom and just knowledge of sports in general, how can we use that to get into PR jobs, internships, and yeah.
I would piggyback off of what Andrew said, you know, don't be afraid to go in expecting to do anything. When I took the PR internship for the Sacramento Kings, I was expecting to be the gopher, go for coffee, go for this, go for that. And so, you know, in my time with the Kings, growing and, you know, being thrown different challenges, whether it was, you know, I want you to write a concert announcement. I want you to write a press release on this initiative. I want you to write an award submission on Golden One Center and why it is the world's most technologically advanced arena. You know, just kind of rolling with the punches, and then to use your fandom. You know, one of the things, it sounds a little nerdy, but one of the things I did in my off time when I was an intern is I would go read old press releases, and I would go and see how they would describe certain initiatives. And it really helped me, because then as I was now looking toward the future of what the Kings were wanting to become, I could also reference their past. And so I was able to use my fandom of the Sacramento Kings to go back and read some of their old press releases, or watch some of their old videos and how they would describe, like, their Kings president at the time, Chris Granger. He now works in Detroit. He's phenomenal. I used to go listen to old videos of him so that when I was writing talking points for things, I knew the words he liked to use to describe things, or the tone in which he would say it, so that I could make sure that the King's most impactful words were being used correctly. So, you know, I think that you can bring a fandom, not just for the stuff on the court, on the field, on the diamond, anything like that. I think that you can bring it towards the business side and really show, you know, why you think that that organization is your perfect fit.
Awesome. Yeah. Again, something I'm writing when I'm done going back, referencing all these tips. Now, this is amazing. So, we do have another question. This one is for you, Emily. So this is from an anonymous attendee, and they ask, can you shed light on your experience of working in the sports industry as a woman, and any advice you may have for other women who want to break into the sports industry in some way?
Yeah, so I'm really fortunate to work for a team. I think, you know, we're not 50-50 in terms of men and women, but we are up and coming. You know, we have the first COO, and to serve as both the COO and the president, Matina Kolokotronis. And, you know, just reach out. You know, I think it's really important to network, reach out to other females, ask about their journeys, pick up the pieces that we don't normally hear. You know, working in such a male dominated field, it can be intimidating, but I tell you what, like, those guys want to work with the best candidate for the job. They don't care if you're male or female. They're ready to hit the ground running and work as a team. And, you know, at least from my experience, and it could be different elsewhere, but I think, you know, if it's something that you're passionate about, don't let the fear of, I mean, striking out keep you from playing the game, for lack of a better analogy. You know, don't let it hold you back. If you want it, go get it. And, you know, I think, Andrew, I think you said earlier, going and talking to people to in the positions that you're looking at. Like, you know, if you're looking for a, you know, my baseball team is the Giants. When I was a senior in college, I went straight to their VP of communications and said, "Hey, how did you get to your job? I want to be you one day." And, you know, not being afraid of just putting yourself out there. Yes, you will get the people that don't respond back. You'll get a lot of people who are willing to lift you up, especially the ladies. Just saying. Like, I don't know what it is, but all of the reach outs I've done to ladies in the sports world, they've all been so down to just speak with me and talk to me about what I need to do to bolster my resume.
Awesome. Yeah, and obviously you guys are the professionals that are coming back to us. So seriously, we appreciate it so much that you guys take your time, talk to us, because again, everyone here, whether it be sports or a different avenue, we want to be you guys one day. So I do appreciate that. So this is a question for you, Andrew. This is from William from Cal State Fullerton. So he wanted to know what would be your best recommendation for standing out in the application process of someone who's applying to an internship or a job for the NFL or even just a team in general. So yeah, what would be your recommendations?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of cliche to say it, but it's really a lot about who you know. And this is going to actually piggyback off what Emily just said, which is fantastic advice. If you're starting out, yes, as a student or you just graduated, and if you're looking to get into the sports world, reaching out to people in jobs that you want to ask for advice is so crucial. And it's not like, hey, I need a job. Can you give me a job? I remember when right soon after I graduated, I spoke with Stacey James, who heads up the PR for the New England Patriots. And he said, it's very easy for them to say no to a job application through, email, because they could get hundreds of those a day. But what stands out is if you take the time to email them and say like, hey, this is where I'm at in my career. Do you have 10 to 15 minutes of your time to talk about your career, any advice you would give, how you go about your job? And what that does is it develops a relationship that isn't just based on, hey, I need a job, can you give me a job? It's based off of an understanding that one day that might come about, but I'm genuinely interested in this job. I'm genuinely interested in this industry, and I want to learn tools from you on how I can do that. And not only does it build those foundational relationships, which, if it were the Rams and you've talked to Artist Twyman with the Rams and he knows who you are and you see an internship, then you can go to him and say like, hey, I really enjoyed our time. I really enjoyed our conversations in the past. I saw this opening and this position, any and all consideration that I might be able to receive would be greatly appreciated. It builds you up for that kind of stuff. And then finally, I think what it does is it builds the Rolodex in a way in your mind of situations that you yourself might come across. You can learn from someone and they explain to you how they approach the situation. And who knows, 2 to 3 years down the line, you're faced with something very similar. You can call that conversation back. Stacey James with the Patriots, he handled it this way. That's good advice. Let me try and handle it that way. So I guess that's a long winding answer of, in terms of wanting to stand out, it's putting forth that effort of reaching out to people. At the end of the day, that will get you in, where then you can say like, hey, I can do the job. I can show you I can do the job, and I can, talk about myself in a way that will give you confidence that I can do the job. But that's where it all starts.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, perfect. So we do have another question here. This one is coming from Daniel from Cal State LA. And this is going to go to Emily. So he was wondering how a team dynamic works and how do you properly ask for help from another PR representative, if possible?
Yeah, so like I said before, my team is very small. So my director and she came in 2018, and I had been with the Kings for no, 2019. I had been with the Kings I was working on my third season. And so I had the unique opportunity to train her in the realm of how to survive in the King's world, of all of the little details that I learned about the job along the way, and kind of taking her under my wing and showing her the ropes. And I really try to foster an open communication. I like to wear my heart on my sleeve. So when something's bothering me, I'm not afraid to voice it, and I want to create an environment that also caters to making others feel comfortable to share that with me. And this past season, I had this intern and she was absolutely phenomenal. If she needed help, she was not afraid to run to my desk. She was not afraid to pick up the phone and dial my extension. Like whatever needed to happen, she just was there. And, so I think, especially in the PR setting where communication is key, you have to foster that within your own department so that things run smoothly. And things don't always run smoothly, and there are frustrations and everything, but also being able to say, hey, when you handle things this way, this is not conducive for me because I tend to react this way. Or hey, you passed this project that I was supposed to work on over to the intern. Like, did you think I wasn't able to complete it with my current workload? And, my boss would be like, oh no, like I felt bad. Our intern wasn't really doing anything. So wanted to make sure that she gets equal opportunity for experience. Okay, great. Instead of sitting there and overthinking about things like, oh, maybe my director didn't think I was capable. So, just making sure that the way that you want to be managed, you're also managing up to your direct superior. I think that that's the best way to create those lines and make sure that you're working efficiently.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for that one. Yeah. So perfect. So this is actually a pretty good question here. Now, this is coming from Anna from Long Beach. So I'll ask this one to the both of you. So we'll start with Andrew. So what surprised you the most about your job once you entered it, and just things in general that you weren't expecting once you got in your position?
That's a good question. I think one thing that surprised me is when you start to, in the way that Emily and I, the function of our job a lot is to work with high profile people. In Emily's case, it's NBA players and T-Pain. For me, it's a lot of former players. And what you come to find out is, this is also kind of cliche to say, they're just normal people. And you can kind of get a little starstruck at the beginning, but when you come to find out that they operate as you would in your normal coworkers. Certainly they have each one is a little different, and you come to find out there's different ways of approaching people, and how someone likes, it's fine, you can get my number out and have them call me for an interview, or you call me and you conference me in with them. But what you find out is, once you gain that level of trust and in a way like respect, they treat you like normal people. And that certainly was a little bit of a surprise for me. The other thing I would say briefly is, it's not necessarily a surprise, it's more of a realization that this is an industry where it's 24/7. It's important to be reachable. It's important to be have people contact you for questions, or if they need anything. And it certainly is, not as 9 to 5 as other jobs. And certainly, you sacrifice a lot of time. You sacrifice a lot of, holidays and things like that. But, it's something that I think leads you to doing the job. And so I don't know if that's the best way to answer it, but yeah, I mean, I think those things have been, if I had to pinpoint a few surprises.
No, that's great. And yeah, thank you for that, Andrew. So Emily, same thing. So anything that surprised you once you got your job, and then maybe things you weren't expecting once you got into it?
Yeah, so I'm gonna kind of sound like a broken record here with Andrew. Um, what surprised me was the department size of all departments. You know, even the biggest departments don't seem quite big enough to manage everything that happens. And, you know, I think coming in as a fan and, you know, even past my experience with the athletic department in college and recognizing how small it was there, I just expected, you know, oh, we're going into the pros, like it's going to be a massive team, all this kind of stuff, and it's definitely not. And so that was really surprising to me. And then also, like Andrew was saying, the amount of commitment and time it takes to be in this, you know, like I said, you know, some mornings I have to be there at the arena at 6 o'clock in the morning to run a media hit. And you have literally enough time to run to the nearest Starbucks to get your caffeine before you need to be in meetings. And it's game day. So that means you're not going to be leaving the arena until at least 11 p.m. And then you have to wake up and do it all over again because it's a back to back. And, you know, every day is a different um, challenge, different obstacle, different opportunity, different fun way to live the career that you want it to be. And I think that that could be said for any field, you know. And you know, the other thing that I was really surprised on was the different backgrounds that people come from. You know, I think I'm saying, you know, a lot, and that's a PR professional, I'm realizing that that's my thing. So a lot of the people I work with have many different backgrounds. They come from politics, they come from the community, and recognizing that there is no one way into sports. Your first job does not have to be with an internship with a sports team. There are so many different ways. Find the community partners that the team works with. Find the businesses that we partner with, like the Kings are a big partnership of SMUD and Kaiser Permanente. Look to those, because you know what, a letter of recommendation from those different organizations speaks volumes to the organizations that you're wanting to get into. There's no one path. And to kind of go back on my other advice from earlier, you're never at a point in your career where networking isn't a bad idea. Like, I have an upcoming conversation with the director from the Warriors because I want to know, what do I need to get to the next step in my career? You know, it's always a good idea to continue looking to develop yourself as a professional. And yeah, I don't know where else I was getting all amped up for, but but you know, look at the different paths that people took into sports, because there's not just one way. You do not have to get that athletic internship straight out of college. Just expand upon your horizons and see the many different routes.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. No, you guys giving us great insight. And no, I mean, it's great hearing from you guys. I mean, just the different routes you guys have taken to get where you are and continuing to grow. So I do appreciate that. I think that will conclude the Q&A session. We had some great questions. So yeah, I mean, I just want to, Andrew, Emily, and I know Lizzy was here earlier. Thank you guys so much for joining us. This was a blast to have you guys here. I mean, just taking time out of your day. I know, you know, it doesn't stop. The sports world really doesn't stop, but still, it's great. I really appreciate you guys coming by. And yeah, thank you everyone for attending too. Having people from different universities, and it's great that we're able to take advantage of our online situation, to come together like this. So thank you guys so much, Andrew and Emily. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Or
Honored to be a part of it. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to connect on LinkedIn or anything like that. But thank you again for organizing this.
Yes, thank you. And yeah,
yeah.
so I guess one final question, would that be the best way to communicate or get in contact with you guys would be LinkedIn?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, LinkedIn is probably the best for me, and then we can kind of figure out the best way of conducting either written back and forth questions or just like a 30-minute chat to debrief on everything and answer
Sure.
any follow-up questions.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on one last time. Andrew, you already know we have a lot of NFL fans, and Emily, I think you made some Sacramento Kings fan down here in Lakerland.
Hopefully. Hey, you know what? As long as it's California representing California, it's never a bad thing. I'm a Giants fan, I'm a Niners fan, and I'm a Kings fan. But if there's another team in the big game, I'll give a little love their way. So
Thank you guys. And
thank you.
so one last thing, I guess. So this is our first SoCal Coalition event of the semester. We will have our esports and gaming event on February 24th. So I hope to see you guys there. Andrew and Emily, thank you guys so much. And we truly appreciate it. Thank you.
No,
Of course.
no problem.
Thank you.
All right, guys, and that will conclude our session. Thank you guys so much for joining us.